All right, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to copy this component now, and you select the skills, and we're just going to use the copy again. We're going to go back over to the NPC sheet, and we're going to hit paste. Takes a couple seconds, especially if you have a lot of skills, but this is a very easy way to actually just get all your skills copied over, and this way it makes it so that you can very easily add them to your NPC. We'll see how that works. I'm going to hit save, close, and I'm going to go back to the game. We'll take a look at our token here. And so now we have a skills component, and now I can use the add prefab to add in any existing prefab skill. So maybe tumbling, and hit that, and there you go. All right, so the next item for the docket is, we did skills. Traits are included up above. They have immunities again. And let's talk about features, actions, and reactions. So most creatures that exist in games have some sort of set of actions that they can perform. If it's a tactical game, obviously if it's like Theater of the Mind, it's less important about the specifics of the features or the actions. But potentially rolling dice is all you really need, and you can cover that by simply adding an action component, which will allow them to build any sort of custom actions for their sheet and let you roll them so it's easy to get to. But in the case of MythCraft, they have specific actions that they can do, things like the bite and the tongue and the pursue. These can be all measured inside of the action component itself. Things like features, though, which it's less about a specific action they can do. Things like Earthbound here, it's more of an item just to describe something that they're capable of doing. Same thing with the reaction. So what you can do with that is you can come inside. We'll go back to our NPC sheet. And so now what I'd like to do is we have our skills section, but I'm just going to add yet another skills section, an empty one. And this one, we're actually just going to change. We're going to change the root field name to say features. We're going to call the title features. And it's just going to be a skill and description set. All this gives the player, or in the case of the game master for this NPC sheet, gives you the ability to just add in row by row items of just a specific set of items that can describe what the creature does. You can actually set up, if you want it to have like a value type, whether it's bonus or quantity, target, that kind of stuff. So if maybe you did want to have some sort of detail in terms of how the value works, you can do that, but that will only work when you're using like skill and ranks and skill and value and that kind of stuff. Now, you can also add prefab skills. So if you wanted to go through the entire monster handbook and add all of the prefabs, you can totally do that. But most of the time, when you're dealing with a VTT space, you can actually just copy and paste right from a PDF. PDFs are widely available now for most games, and you can very easily just copy the value and paste it in. So it makes it pretty easy. So we've added the features. Let's save that, and we'll go test that out real quick. And so we'll open up our token again, and the creature has Earthbound as a feature. So we'll just say Earthbound. We're going to update that. We can go in there. Give me one moment while I copy this text. All right, so I copied the text from a PDF, and then I can just come in here and paste it. And what I like to do is I like to get rid of all the spaces so that it looks really nice. And if it has any details like a type or a subtext, you can do that to kind of give it a little bit more definition in terms of how it looks. So those are options to give you kind of like grouping features. There you go. So now that has Earthbound. And you could even add like the reaction in there, which is very easy to do. So The final piece, I think, so we have features. We could create another section for reactions, which might be useful. Sometimes it can be easier to actually just take something like this features section, and you could actually say like features, reactions, etc. You could change the title so that they have individual items. Sometimes people like to actually create individual sections because it does play nice with being able to group everything. So we can add another skills box down here. And this one we're going to say reactions. And reactions again. Same thing, skill and description. We don't really want to change anything there. And save that. And so now we have two sections. And from here, the final piece, two final pieces that you probably want to really add is sometimes people like to add, treasure and stuff like that to monsters. And you can do that by actually adding an inventory component to your NPC. Then you can actually track treasure on specific enemies if you want to do so. I don't think it's really necessary for this one, so we won't bother with that. But from here, the real final piece, like I said, is the basic actions. And we'll add that to the sheet. And we're actually going to reorder this because we want it to be higher up in the chain. I usually put them above the skills. And I'll come down. I'm going to add a couple of rows here. And there you go. So, I grabbed the actions. 1 second. Let's change the row of the skills to 10. And then we're going to change actions to be 9. And so now we have pretty much a complete character sheet. I guess was wrong. There are other final things. In MythCraft, you do actually roll for initiative. So another way to do that is you can either use this basic initiative, or you can actually use an attribute page to give them an initiative. Some attributes have this ability here where you can add this encounter roll and any item that is listed in here. So you can create a single attribute with a single group with a single sub attribute, and you could just call it initiative, and you could let it set so it has modifiers. And in this case, we actually kind of want to do that. And you can see that I have one here inside of the player sheet, and it's an initiative. And it's a base roll with bonus value, and it's set up as a panel, and it has set as an encounter roll. So when you roll this, it will actually apply the roll to the current encounter. We're just going to copy this again. Copy the component. Save that real quick before we switch. Then I'm going to paste this, and I'm going to change the column to be the outside here. And there you have it. This is pretty much straightforward what you would need to do to kind of build a monster sheet or some sort of other sheet. There's a lot involved here, and you can really dive into some of the specifics of your system. And so what I will do is I will test this real quick. That's what I like to do. I like to go back into my game. I open up the sheet and I can modify some things. And this right here, this actually applies your awareness automatically. So if I were to say my awareness is a 1, I get a bonus of +1. I can also edit the base value and say, maybe I have a 1 initiative, so now I have a +2. And if I roll this, you'll see that it actually picks up the D20, adds the 2, and then I can add in various items, and then I can test the roll. I usually do this pretty often where I'll test the rolls on things to make sure things feel and work the way I expect them to. If I edit these values, these are just defenses, so I don't need to really do anything. But if I were to try to take an action, and in this case, let's take that bite action from the creature. So what I like to do is I often will copy the text right from the book, and then I'll come in and I'll start adding details. So I'll add a description field, and then I'll give it a name. And I'll paste in what I actually copied from the book right into the description. And it helps me kind of work on this while I'm actually in here. And then so I'll say, here's my attack. I will add an extra effect for the damage. And then, so this is +3 versus the armor rating. And so here, I'll just give this a bonus of +3. And then, because it's a melee weapon, I could actually use my modifier system. And I click on modifiers, and I add modifier, and I say linked value. And then we can actually go in and find our physical, which is probably going to be strength. Yep, because the strength is 3, and so I don't have to do a bonus here. And then I can set up the damage, and so he can do 1d4 plus 3 sharp damage. Let me see. So we'll change that to a d4. And then similarly, I'm going to add a modifier, and we're going to add in the strength modifier. So we'll go back down, add the strength modifier, and for now, what I'm going to do is, because I have that other fire damage and stuff, I'm going to say add, and you'll see that I have kind of a basic setup. Let's fix the strength. So his strength is 3, his endurance is 3, and so now you'll see I get the +3s, which is a great start. And from here, I can actually go back into the game type editor, and what we'll do is we're going to set up the damage types. So obviously, the different types of damages available in MythCraft, I haven't set them up, and so we'll need to do that so that we can make that available. So let me go back in. We're going to go to the game type properties, and I'll add damage types. And so in this case, sharp is 1, and fire is 1. And I'm not going to go through the whole list of them. But this is where the dice bags come into play. Now, dice bags underneath the covers are just a set of properties that allow you to set up various options for your dice for the entire system. In this case, MythCraft, so I have a bunch of them that I've built over time. And right now, you cannot edit the dice bags. That is something that is on my to-do list, and I plan on improving this significantly. But the dice bags will be available to be edited from you pretty relatively soon, probably after the new year. And what we'll do is you'll be able to come right inside of your game type, and you'll be able to modify your dice bag and set up options. And the reason why I bring this up is because right now MythCraft does not have damage types enabled for the actual dice bag itself. And let me show you what you'll see when that happens. If I were to bring this goblin back up, or, you know, it's not goblin, we'll change it to the slag toad. Actually, let's just do that now. We're going to change the base object, slag toad. And we'll go to the NPC, make sure that's saved in these tabs. All right, so now I can, you'll see this still says goblin 1, even though this actually is the slag toad. So let's change that. And there we go. All right, so our slag toad here has his actions. And if I edit this, there would normally be a damage type option here under your effects for your action. And because that doesn't exist right now, because my dice bag doesn't have that set up. And let me go do that real quick behind the scenes, and then I'll show you. All right, so I've added that to the back end, but now very easily with just essentially talking to me and having conversations saying, you know, I need a new dice bag for this or that, I can quickly set you up if one of the dice bags that currently exists doesn't work for you. It's not very hard for me to set that kind of stuff up and give you what you're looking for. And so now with the damage type, I can actually enable the damage type. And in this case, I'm going to say it's a sharp damage type. And then let's add one more effect because it's supposed to have fire damage. And we'll add the effect, and it's a 1d6 fire. So we'll change the dice. Let's see. Flame damage. And then we'll add a damage type. So it's 1d6. And then we'll change it to fire and hit update. And so now you'll see all of the pieces are all together. And now if I roll this, it'll actually pull all this detail together. And there you go. 17 attack, 7 sharp damage, and 2 fire. And this is how setting up all these different sheets and all that kind of stuff work really well. Now I think the another small piece to note was something that we talked about in the beginning, which was with the sheet editor and your token override. You want to make sure that you set the token override for your NPC sheets to include the hit points, to include things like any options that may be relevant to your game for specific token related data. And so I'll just set the bio and the hit points to be that. Everything else is going to be pretty standard. And then I'm going to hit save. And that's it for creating a basic sheet. Now, underneath this, which there's yet another system that is really useful, there's the tooltip system. And whenever you select a token on the map, there is a little tooltip that shows up down. And these are called... they are technically called the tooltips, at least that's what I call them, but they're also kind of like a mini character sheet. And so if I were to take my main character and drag him down, and then I select him, you'll see that he's got like a little bio picture here. And so what we like to do is this little tooltip system is actually editable as well. And so what I do is I'll come in, I'll go to the tooltip editor, select my sheet, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new field. I'm going to use the bio, and I'm going to set, I want it to do the full width. I'm going to set the level to be protected. Security level is what people can see. Private means anyone who owns it or the game master can see it. Protected is pretty much the same thing. I plan on adding more details so that there's more granularity that you can add here. And then public is anyone can see this. 95% of the time you're going to want your security levels set to protected unless you have a specific use case otherwise. In this case, I'm going to add the portrait and I'm going to add the subname so it has the size and type added there. I don't need the details text or the background text here. Let me see here. So detail fields, maybe I will do that. So that way you can see that. So you'll see the detail view there. All right. Actually, no, let's do the, let's do all fields because we want level as well. Now, we're going to go here, and typically the top item I pick is the hit points. Let me change the order of this. I want that to be 0, and I want that to be 1. So you can change the order as well. We're going to change that to say full width. And then public is going to, security is going to get set to protected, and then you have a protected type. So in some games you just want to have like descriptive text that says that the creature is injured or bloodied or something like that, or a status text only. I tend to do progress bar with status text because it gives you the status, the text in there, and it's very easy to read for players, for you to read as a game master. And then if you want to make this public, you could, and if it was public, you could set the protected type to be progress bar with status text, and it would still be public, but it would prevent players from seeing exact values. They would only see kind of like, oh, it's injured or it's at 50%. Like it's a little easier to manage that. Either way, I'm going to go with protected, and I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to add a new field. And here is where you can start to get into some cool things where I'm going to say I'm going to add all the attributes. And then maybe I want to make the field next to it on the right. Maybe I want to do the initiative. So it's easy for me to find the initiative right there. I'm going to add a little spacing between them. Makes it a little easier. And then I'll save that. I'm going to add a new field, and this is how all you have to do. You just go right down the line. So here's my defenses. I'm not going to put anything next to it. I'm going to add a new field. Maybe I will put the speed next to it, actually. Speed might work. You know what? Speed isn't going to be a good one. Let me delete this field. I'll re-add it. So we're just going to do defenses, and then I'm going to add another field, and down below I'm going to go and add my speeds, so that way my speed is easy to read. And then let's see if I have anything else. Actions, reactions, skills. Skills is what I want, so now it'll display my skills down here as well. Let's actually change one thing. We're gonna add our actions in here. Now actions would normally, right now I haven't actually written the part that's going to show up, but actions will be here, and you'll be able to see little squares with all your actions in them, and you'll be able to click on each one of them and you'll be able to activate them right from the mini tooltip. So it's good practice to add in the actions anyway, because I plan on adding these at some point pretty soon. All right, I'm going to save that one more time. Let's go back to the sheet editor and see if we're missing anything. Hit points, initiative, defenses, speed, action, skills. We don't need the features on there. I think that's pretty good. So we'll close this, and we'll go back to our slag toad here. And now you can see this is where all of my details show up very easily. I can click like my initiative button here. I can click any one of my abilities. My tumbling skill is here, so now I can actually roll tumbling right from here. So there's a lot of really neat features with the tooltip system that give you a lot of power and a lot of strength to displaying information very quickly to the player, so that they don't have to open up the character sheet to get the details. They can actually just use this little mini sheet right here. And so if I were to come into here, edit these values, size and type, so let's see, medium, beast, elemental, details. I could add in some descriptive text if I wanted to. You can give him level 2 immunities. He's immune to fire. Vulnerabilities cold. 3 DR / cold. I missed a piece. DR3 versus cold. Traits is immutable. Vigilant in regen 5. I could add in a full background if I really wanted to, and I'll hit update. So now you'll see that shows up, and then you'll see down below here in the mini tooltip, you'll see some information. And sometimes you'll see this info, and you're like, I don't really like, his invulnerabilities or his immunities of vulnerabilities and traits. I don't really like them there. So you can just come right back in, go back to your NPC sheet, your tooltip, and then you can actually turn off the panels here, and you can actually add another bio field at the very bottom, and instead of showing any of the other detail, you can actually show the detail view of all fields. So it shows like level, immunities, and traits. And save that. I can very quickly just adjust this. Now you'll see they're down at the bottom, and everything looks a little better, a little easier to read. And maybe we like the level up top. So we can go back again, NPC, tooltip editor. We'll just actually add in the panel fields, and then we're going to only show the detail fields here. Save. And there you go. And there you have pretty much a fully functioning character sheet for the NPCs. And I can make multiple copies of this, so I could open up this and I could drag down multiple slag toads, and you'll see it's a slag toad 1, automatically slag toad 2. And if I were to adjust their hit points, because I didn't actually add that in, let's actually go to the hit points on here. When you adjust things like hit points in like the base names and stuff like that, make sure you're using it from the list, because otherwise you'll run into a situation where the value doesn't update from here because it uses the token override system. So we want to set hit points to 20, and we're going to set the current value to 20. And you'll see that they all kind of updated And then I can come in here to edit settings. I can turn their health bars to public, and you'll see that in here they have now a circular health bar that shows up. And what we'll do is now, if I were to reduce, you know, say take 5 points of damage and do that, you'll see that none of the others actually are taking damage in the same way. And so I could even say, you know, let's take 3 hit points. Now you'll see how that whole thing works. Take another 3. There you go. So that's setting up a basic character sheet for certain monsters. And like I said, there's a lot of details. I would love to expand this into a series of YouTube videos that can really explain all of the ins and outs of all the details, but that would take extraordinary amount of effort, and I prefer to continue working on developing Questline and getting more tools to everyone. And if somebody out there wants to take that challenge, you know, feel free, and I'd be happy to help you out in what ways I can. But I think that's it for now. I appreciate you sticking around for this long. It's been a long dive into the deep parts of Questline, and thanks for stopping by, and keep questing.